Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Pisces, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of March 2025. I hope you're well and happy birthday if your birthday happens to fall this month. Happy birthday if your birthday happened to fall last month, frankly. Happy birthday all round. Anyway, things to tell you. Yes, before the reading begins, if it resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That is via the first, I think it's the first or the second link in the description box. I actually can't remember. I should go and have a look. It's taking you to the platform Selfie rather than Vimeo anymore. We're moving away from Vimeo because of some fairly egregious practices. We trialled Selfie last month. It seemed to work on the whole really rather well. There were a few teething issues, but I was in a position to be able to correct those, which I actually couldn't do when I was using Vimeo in the same way. So that's actually really cool. There were problems, but I could fix them, you know. So yes, and of course Circle is always available. On the higher tier we are doing some fairly intensive classes on all sorts of things at the moment, so if that tickles your fancy, you know what to do with that. Right, so did I tell you I was using the Sufi Tarot? I'm not sure I did. Well, I'm using the Sufi Tarot for you. In a slight change to normal, we will also be drawing a card from this deck here. This is the Liminal Forest. It's MJ Cullinane's new Oracle deck. Let me flip the camera around so you can see what I'm looking at here. It's absolutely extraordinary. And I don't know why, this month it just feels like I should do this. So let's give these a shuffle. And that number 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 5. We will cut the deck here. Under this card, whatever this is your oracle card for this month. We'll put this deck to one side. In all other respects, everything else is going to be the same, but we will look at this at the end and see how it ties into whatever comes up for you in here. Now, this deck is beautiful, but it's absolutely impossible to shuffle the way that I would usually do. So we're going to shuffle these actually the same way. Let's give them a big shuffle, one of them. So I can't even do them end on end because they're so big and so thick. There's 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one this way. And we will cut the deck here. So, recent past for Pisces. We have the Knight of Wands. Current energy for Pisces is the 7 of Wands, and what's coming towards Pisces for March, please? We have the Chariot. I don't think this is going to come as much of a surprise to most Pisces. You know, we've been talking quite a bit over the last few months of, you know, particularly since the North Node moved into your sign, of just how significant Pisces energy is now and how much of an influence it's going to be playing across the board, certainly for the next 18 months. But I mean, as things stand at the moment, there are a significant number of planets that are in the sign of Pisces. Saturn is there, Neptune is there, and it's sitting at the you know, the very last degree. So it's actually moving into Aries at the end of this month, but we're kind of having a peak Pisces moment with Neptune sitting where it is. And although this month we will have a Mercury retrograde and a Venus retrograde, and both of those are going to initiate in the sign of Aries, both of those are going to be retrograding back into Pisces. So whichever way you cut it, I do believe that there are significant Piscean influences over the energies of this month. What do we have at the bottom of the deck here? We have the King of Cups. Very nice. That's your king there. It represents the sign of Scorpio, generally speaking, but it is your king. So it's about the active expression of emotion. It's not the internal processing of it. It's how you sit in it and how it influences all of your actions and behaviours. That's very strange. Okay, so we're actually going to go with the Edmund de Lac tarot to clarify as well, which is fascinating. It's absolutely beautiful decks, both of these. Let's get some clarifiers onto the table and then we'll see what's going on. But there's no doubt in my mind that whatever is going on, it's quite action-packed for you, Pisces. So let's get these fucking cards all over the place, right? Tell me about this Knight of Wands, please, for Pisces. Well, there's the first one. We have the High Priestess. Touché. That's the card of Pisces in the Major Arcana. Whoa, and we also have the Nine of Wands on its side. Tell me about the Seven of Wands, please, for Pisces. Why is this here? We have the Three of Swords on its side. That one sort of fell out, but we'll let it have it. Ace of Swords there for that one. And what about the Chariot? Why is this here, please, for Pisces? We have King of Pentacles. And another two, interestingly enough. We have, what's that, the Queen of Wands and the Two of Wands. Right, so there are decisions to make this month. I think, to be honest, across the board, that seems to be true for most of the signs. Although, unlike most of the other signs, there seems to be a lot of movement in your cards, where for everybody else, it's sort of trying to try not to, you know, churn up too much silt. Like most of the other signs have had the message that it's probably a good idea for them to kind of keep their head down and stay relatively quiet and not draw attention to themselves, you know. Let's move that deck out of the way there. Push these in here. Can we fit this in here? We have the Seven of Wands again. Same card as this one, appearing at the bottom of the deck. Hopefully you can see enough there to work out what's going on. Let's put these down here a little bit. So we start off over here with the Knight of Wands. When I talk about the recent past, I am talking about any time from this morning when you got out of bed to about maybe 6 weeks back. And so at the point that I'm recording this, that 6 week period actually correlates almost exactly with when the North Node moved into your sign. The North Node is associated with this kind of almost like an insatiable desire to move in a particular direction, which is then given the flavour of whatever sign it happens to be sitting in. So when the North Node was in Aries, Kelsurprise, we had a lot of beating of drums, of the war drums, and, you know, rattling of sabres, and actually some actual aggression happening. Now that we're in the sign of Pisces, many people in the world seem to be more oriented towards the idea of peace than the continuation of this saber rattling, war drum banging, but sort of energy. But, you know, by all means, not everyone. The point is that the Knight of Wands for you almost feels a bit like an activation. There's something really rather beautiful about this Sufi tarot here. We have this solitary candle and it's burning. It's obviously been burning for quite a long time here. And we've got the energy that is kind of galloping around the candle. We see here the Knight of Wands, right? He's galloping around the candle. We've got a butterfly here, which is a symbol of transformation. And we have this sense that you have in some ways been activated, right? And it's very much in the here and now. You know, whether this is a time that you've been waiting for quite a long time, and then all of a sudden, Kelsurprise, it is here, and it is time for Pisces to do what Pisces probably has always felt like at some point in their life they would be called to do. Here you are. There's a great deal of energy that seems to be running through you, or have been running through you, that likely I actually don't think we've really seen in the other signs. The other signs, just as you were, seemingly, well, actually affected by the Mars retrograde, which only ended on the 12th, it was like the 24th of February or something like that. But where everybody else seemed to feel like they were crawling on broken glass to get to the point where Mars stationed direct before he started moving forwards. The experience has been very different for you. Very, very different indeed. You'll notice that we have the High Priestess underneath there, and as I was saying at the beginning there, like the High Priestess is your card. It is a very, very strong stamp of the energetic signature of Pisces appearing in the reading. You read them both together and it feels a little bit like This activation is of a deeper, higher, however you want to put it, like version of you. It's saying now, the time is now, and I have what I need to be able to do what it is that I'm going to do, whether that is a little bit more energy, a little bit more endurance, or whether it's an increased level of creative energy that seems to be running through you right now, right? So it's like, not only do I have the ideas, but I actually have the energy to start executing those ideas, to start investing energy into creative projects. Remember, everything about the wands is fire generally, right? It's given to be a very, very creative card. And even if it's not manifesting in terms of increased creativity, we could be seeing an increase in passion for something that you probably were feeling already kind of creative about, in all truth. But I like the fact that the cards are appearing this way round. And let me explain for why. Because if the High Priestess had come up here, that wouldn't be a bad thing at all. It'd be kind of a good thing. But the High Priestess would be being informed by the Knight of Wands. And I think it's altogether a much more powerful position to be in, to have a very, very solid High Priestess in touch with the cosmos, in touch with, higher self guides, literally, channeling the energies of the universe and translating that into action via the energy of the Knight of Wands. Right? This is the wisdom element of this. Knight of Wands, not really known so much for that wisdom. However, boundless levels of energy and an ability to be both spontaneous and so entirely present in the moment that nothing gets by him at all. Right? He is totally switched on. He's totally observant, because it's like, attention's here, attention's here. The attention is wherever it needs to be, as far as the Knight of Wands is concerned. And this very strong, very stable High Priestess energy is feeding the wisdom of the next move to Pisces. Now, it's quite interesting when the next card that we have to talk about all of this here is another Sagittarius card. It's the Nine of Wands. And for me, the nines represent a kind of personal management of their respective suits. So in the case of this, we've got how you, Pisces, are personally managing wand type things, right? So obviously creativity, experiences, and so on and so forth. But the main thrust of the Nine of Wands card is often the need for, or the maintenance of, even the repair of, good boundaries in any given situation, right? And the extent to which good boundaries will dictate whatever moves it is that we make next. Now, you'll notice that that card is on its side. I don't feel that is a negative in this situation. I feel like it's almost indicative of some level of internal resistance that has completely melted away, so that you get a very, very pure message coming through from the universe. Now, I know there's not much that interferes with the purity of the message that you have from the universe, Pisces. But as things have stepped up a pace, and goodness they have. I saw my Bulgarian teacher this morning and she went, "Carrie, you were so right. We're only 4 days into March, and already the things that have happened." I was like, yes, I said, wait until we get to the end of the month. It's a whole different ball game. I said, it's fine. Go do something with your hands. You'll be fine. There's been a huge uptick in relatively chaotic energies. But I was share this with you. That's my puppy you can hear barking. She's a Sag with a Gemini ascendant, and she's got something to say to everyone, even if they're half a mile away. She's got something to say. Anyhow, I was reading something about some rather spectacular leaps forward that had occurred in AI recently, And somebody commented underneath the link to the article that what was perceived as chaos was actually the point where the system recognized that what was happening was outside of its computational parameters. It's essentially one and the same thing, right? And the whole point being that the computational system needs some sort of upgrade in order to be able to take in the vast amount of information that is now, trying to be processed versus, a more simple set of parameters when there was considerably less information. And I can't help but think of that when I'm looking at these cards here for you, Pisces. Now, I'm not trying to suggest you are a computational system, but I do wonder if part of what Pisces is the upgrade mechanism for what we are metaphorically referring to as the computational system of humanity. Do you follow what I mean? Because although, granted, I haven't read for all of the signs yet, you really are the first one that doesn't seem quite as overwhelmed. In fact, as I said before, you seem to have been activated, where everybody else is being counselled to kind of sit still, be quiet, don't make too much ruckus, don't try and decide too many things, just wait it out and see what happens. It would make sense to me that part of the mission of Pisces would be this energetic upgrade of all around. And it seems to be happening right now. Let's just have a look at this Nine of Wands on its side. Let's see. High Priestess in reverse. Interesting. Feels exactly like I was saying, right? The High Priestess in reverse is a closing down, where the High Priestess is a conduit, she's a channel, she's allowing things to move through her. When that High Priestess appears in the reverse, we have a shutting down of that, right? We've got a closing of the pipe in some way or other, or at least an obstruction of the pipe, right? And what these cards are saying here is that whatever it is that might have been trying to close down the pipe or cause an obstruction in the pipe has almost been kind of blasted out of the way, certainly been left behind, because the times require it right now. It's not a case of totally dropping every boundary that you have, because I don't think that would be helpful to you at all. But it's almost like there's some sort of override that's going on particular boundaries. And these boundaries are not between you and other people. I think I want to go to great pains to underline that for you. It feels more like any residual doubt that is of the nature of human that you have within you, Pisces. It's been blasted out of the way because it has to be blasted out of the way. It's almost, we're thinking less about boundaries and more about restrictions, obstructions, self-doubt, any kind of, self-worth issues, things like that. Anything that would act as an obstruction in the pipe, it's got to go. It's being left behind. And what it's left in its path is the ability for you to be able to move around freely in a way that hasn't necessarily been afforded to Pisces up until this point before, because so much is of the nature of restriction about everything that it is to be human. I think that Pisces have this awareness of the oneness of all things, right? And so they understand the absolute illusion of separation, but they still have to be in a meat sack, and they still have to have a job, and they still have to pay their taxes, and they still have to pay all their utility bills and things like that. And it's almost it's like a state of incarceration, I think, often for Pisces. And something about the energy in the last 6 weeks or so has changed, so that what is you is flowing from you uninterrupted, kind of liberated, and certainly less restricted than it's ever felt before. It's certainly less rejected than you have feared it might have been before. And now we see you here in this Seven of Wands, which is a card generally that talks about Guarded energy, or a kind of defensive energy, in a state of not actually having to really engage with the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that seem to be, represented by the ones that are flinging backwards and forwards across your head right now. You notice that she's sitting there in a very peaceful position. She has her hands in a mudra resting on her knees, and she's simply meditating, right? She's emanating this glow, this energy is emanating from her, and she is peaceful. It's so peaceful that she's got her eyes closed. And I think that whether or not this is related to the creative explosion, blast, if you will, that we saw over here, or whether this is something else that seems to be coming from you, which is almost like a native understanding of how to function in a system where entropy seems to have overtaken everything. She's in no danger whatsoever, and she knows it. And this is the thing, Pisces, like, you're in no danger whatsoever and you know it. Now, is this coming from your faith and your belief in something bigger than you, whether it's Source or the universe, the Creator, God, however you want to call it? Or is this an awareness of your own power, or the power of being a conduit and allowing something so big to run through you? I'm not sure. But what is interesting is this Three of Swords and Ace of Swords both showing up underneath this very steady, very calm awareness of protection that you have, that you're currently working with in your current energy. In some ways, you could consider the Three of Swords and the Ace of Swords to have a relatively similar message. They have differing levels of power, although if you subscribe to the notion that, it is in our points of intense suffering that we learn the most, maybe the Three of Swords is more powerful than we give it credit for. And the similarity of the message is information that changes our internal paradigm. We can totally see how that would be the case with the Ace of Swords, right? Because it's some sort of new levels of awareness, and it could be, again, like the one suit, there could be some mental creativity involved in that. But it could be an epiphany moment, or it could be some sort of new, cracking great idea that you've got about something. But generally speaking, the Ace of Swords talks about where our mind expands because it is open to new ideas, right? It has been exposed to new ideas, to new concepts, to new ways of thinking about things. And as a result, its worldview changes, or the worldview of the person who's got the Ace of Swords. The Three of Swords is kind of similar because there is an exposure to a different way of seeing the world, but it comes by way of pain, because what it's doing is shattering preconceived emotional expectations, or complacency, whatever. When the Three of Swords hits, we've got a heart which thinks that the world works this way, whichever way that is, and it's quite happy with that, right? It's quite comfortable with that. And then the Three Swords come in and they pierce the heart. And here we have facts, information, logic, something that stings coming in. It's usually truth, right? Coming in and spearing the heart. And from that point on, nothing can seem the same. Nothing looks the same. We know that things have changed. And it will take time to adjust and adapt to what that might mean. Now, the funny thing about this, Pisces, is I don't really feel like this Three of Swords belongs to you. And in some sort of odd way, I don't really feel like the Ace of Swords belongs to you either. It's like you are waiting for the double-pronged energy of these two cards to start spearing other people. Whether it is their preconceived ideas of how the world works kind of falling by the wayside because they've been speared through with something else. Or whether you realise the extent to which people are pretty attached to their version of reality, which is so very close to being, as has happened with you over here, blown up. I think there's an awareness, though, that not everybody is going to deal with it as well as you do, as well as you have. Or whether or not that's come from having a bit of full notice about it, or whether it's simply the act of being a Pisces who's been engaged in personal growth, actively trying to improve themselves. I think the proof is in the pudding here, Pisces. The fact that you can sit there while these, slings and arrows of outrageous fortune are going over your head and you are untouched by them because there's something that's emanating out of you that is protective. Whether this is faith or whether it's something else. Faith is something that Pisces are representative of within the zodiac, right? But whatever it is, you've got it in bucket loads. I was going to say, I was talking about this activation that was going on before. We can see this Knight of Wands is galloping in a spiral around this candle. This kind of ephemeral shape of the spiral that the Knight of Wands is riding here seems to be of the same stuff that is coming from you that is protecting you right now. Now, Sagittarius and Pisces, certainly traditionally, were ruled by the same planet, and that planet is Jupiter. It's only in modern astrology since the discovery of Neptune that Neptune was attributed to to Pisces. Known as the Great Benefic, Jupiter is a planet associated with luck and faith and, the awareness that everything is going to be okay. And it's probably going to be more than okay. It's probably going to be fucking epic, actually, right? This is the message of Jupiter. It's about expansion. So here we have you in this state of peace, pulling off a pose that is not dissimilar to one that we would see with a high priestess, quite frankly. Silent, peaceful, eyes closed, so not being sucked into the emotional rhetoric of the moment. And fuck me, there has been a lot of that in the last 4 days, without a shadow of a doubt. Completely screening out the distractions of the world, readying yourself for this. Because this, when it comes in, just to be clear, right, on the Ace of Swords there, we've got a harpy coming in to attack someone right there. And that, absolutely outstanding. And I don't know what we have here, but I always think that looks something like how I would imagine a banshee to look. Either way, banshee's not a particularly good omen. And what are they called? Harpy. Harpies were never given to be a particularly good omen either. But both of these are bringing a truth with them. And I think the thing is, the truth wakes people up, but it's going to unsettle them and upset the shit out of them along the way, right? That, without a shadow of a doubt, that's a thing that's going to happen. So you're kind of sitting there watching this energy build. It's not quite here yet, but you're watching it build, knowing that it's going to affect everybody that you know. And also being aware that there's literally fuck all that you can do about it right now, and possibly literally fuck all that you would want to do about it right now, which is very, very interesting, Pisces, because it's almost like you intuitively know exactly what you're here for. You know your place in this big, entropic environment, whether it's something that's, that's complexity and amount of information that's coming through is now outstripping the system's ability to be able to decode it. Whether you know that there's no such thing as the rebirth and the new order that comes from all of this until we have descended properly into the pit of chaos. These 3 cards here. Thank you. King of Pentacles. Now that's very interesting because we also have the King of Pentacles over here. Now this is Taurus energy. But what it says to me is that you're actually focusing on the order more than anything else. Right? The King of Pentacles is a builder. He oversees what comes next, right? But also he oversees what is coming up years and years from hence, right? He knows what needs to be done in the moment right now because he knows what he's trying to build in the future. Oh, there it is, Pisces. There's the thing. If it's one thing that I'm hearing from people again and again and again, and to be fair, I'm absolutely experiencing this in my own life. I was talking to my partner only this morning about this. It's the absolute lack of certainty about what comes next, right? We're all at a bit of a loss. We don't know what's happening. Probably won't know what's happening for a goodly while yet. There's also seemingly little inspiration to plan, because we know that everything may change very, very suddenly, and perhaps that may happen even in the next few weeks, right? So this has got people kind of sitting in a bit of a holding pattern. At best, they're sitting in a holding pattern. At worst, they may be firefighting things that are already starting to catch light within their own life, right? And then there's you, Pisces. And you seem to have a better idea about what the future is going to look like and what you want to see in it than anybody else. It's quite interesting that we should be recording this just after the new moon in Pisces. And I wonder if, I don't know if any of you have seen that video, but like I'm wondering how many Pisces will actually have been setting their intentions and projecting those intentions forward, not just for the next week, 2 weeks, month, 2 months, but from a perspective of, if we're going to rebuild this fucker, being planet Earth, or at least Western civilization, we want it to have much more of the energy of Pisces about it than anything else. And this is where you step in as some sort of architect of a new paradigm, or some sort of director for the energies. That's how it's reading here. You know, double King of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, King of Cups over here. Emotional stability, an understanding of what's happening. You know, the fact that I'm looking at this waterfall and I'm actually thinking about Heraclitus and this idea that everything flows. And so a man is never the same man after he stepped in a river versus when he hadn't stepped in a river, right? And the river itself is not the same. It's just like everything flows, everything changes, everything is different from second to second. Because the second time that a man walks into the river, he is now a man who has previously walked into a river where before he was not, right? So he's now different. He's now not the same man that walked in there. And whatever water he put his foot in, that's now 6 miles down the river. It's something else. And this idea that water is, en masse at least, like some sort of, it has a consciousness of its own, which I think is probably easier to perceive when there's a big body of water. It's like it's going where it's going to go, and it's taking us all with it. And some of us are comfortable because we know that's a good thing. I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself terribly well here, Pisces. You feel at peace. This is the thing, you feel completely at peace, and you feel like you are in the process of some sort of energetic background building. Or if you're not quite at the point where you're ready to build, you're certainly at the point where you are gathering your energetic resources so that when the time does approach that you can build, that you will do that. And all the while holding the space that is necessary, that you know there are going to be people flooding into very, very soon. It's like a nurse getting ready to triage after news of some sort of big incident comes through to a hospital. It's like, right, well, the waiting room's empty now, but it's going to be full in about an hour, so we need to, restock the loo roll in the toilet, and then make sure there's things in the vending machine, get out all of the things that we may need to triage people before they get here, because there won't be time to do all of that once they're here. Does this make sense, Pisces? This is very, very strange. Well, it's only strange from my perspective. I imagine it's probably spot on from yours, right? In terms of where it is that you are working and what it is that you are doing. And then we come to the rest of March. We have the Chariot card. I quite like this Chariot card. I'm quite a fan of the Chariot card generally, right? It does talk about victory and success and determination and goal setting and all of those kind of things. But fundamentally, it's a card of self-awareness. We have always the duality, the polarities illustrated on this card. We have a black horse and we have a white horse. We have some conceptual notion of night and day and light and shadow, and nothing being one thing, always having to have its exact and equal opposite factoring in somewhere so that balance is achieved. Like, you've got both stillness and motion. Peacefulness and chaos. Like, you seem to be able to be moving between all of these states in a way that isn't taxing you in the same way that it seems to be doing everybody else. And we've got a deep self-knowledge here, but I think maybe it's something that reaches even further than that for you, Pisces, because it's almost like, yeah, you know yourself, whatever there is to kind of, delineate you from as a self away from everybody else. But more importantly, you know what you're dealing with. And it's the only tarot card that I've got, the Chariot card that I've got, where somebody is stood on the back of horses reaching for the stars with a look of joy. There's quite the fucking gymnastic feat that's being pulled off there by that chap. But he looks simultaneously to be in an act of devotion. And so we have this big movement that I feel around you, Pisces, huge movement, but we also have the absolute stability with which he's standing on the horses. We've got devotion and joy and reaching up for something higher. And we've got energies that are rushing in to move this along in some truly meaningful way. I know a lot of people who are quite frightened right now. And I've done my best to reassure them. It's really nothing to worry about. Like, keep your eye on these things, but don't worry about it. We're going through a big upgrade. Things are happening. Human consciousness will change over the next couple of months. And that's a good thing. And for most people, they take some solace in that. Some people don't. Some people want things to just be as they always are. And I don't think that Pisces is one of them. I think already you're looking beyond the breakdown, the entropy, the chaotic system, whatever it is, and you're already thinking about what it's going to look like moving forwards, what it's going to look like after you have really allowed your energy out into the world completely unrestricted, completely unmitigated. Being that ethereal spirit that, generally speaking, Pisces are. But the King of Pentacles, again, that you are building something. Maybe what you're building is energetic. Have I said that already? I think I might have already said that. There's some sort of expansion of an energetic principle that's going on here, and Pisces is behind it. Pisces is getting ready to triage. Pisces is, I don't know, maybe it's even putting in the safety nets, energetically speaking, for people. And then we have the Queen of Wands. Now the Queen of Wands represents the sign of Pisces. No, you're Pisces. Aries. There we go. And there is conversation going on between Aries and Pisces for the next couple of months. You know, we've got these big transits moving. Like I said at the beginning, we've got Neptune coming out of your sign and into the sign of Aries, but it's not going to stay there forever. It will retrograde back later this year, and it will re-enter your sign. So there's a conversation between what is being wrapped up, what is being broken down, and this new creativity that's running through. But to what extent is Pisces actually responsible for imagining what Aries is now giving form to, right? Or some sort of creative spark to? The imagination is a powerful tool when it comes to both manifestation, but also freeing of spirit, I think. And so, you know, we have Neptune, we have Mercury and Venus doing this. We, you know, starting in Aries, going back to Pisces, coming back to Aries. Saturn will be moving into Aries. Gosh, June or July. I can't remember off the top of my head when it is. There's so much movement here. Even the sun, right? The sun's sitting currently in Pisces, and it's going to be moving into Aries at some point. We're moving from the formless to the initiation of some sort of new kind of order, and I think that you are imagining what that is. I think this is your contribution to the building process. And then we have the Two of Wands. We have the arrival at some sort of crossroads. There is some sort of decision that needs to be made. Now, what the Queen of Wands does really, really well, quite apart from being representative of the sign of Aries, is make sense of what we do, the actions that we take, the behaviours that we engage in, right? Because everything to do with the Wands is about experience and action and movement, these sorts of things. Then the Queen's like, well, what am I going to do and why am I going to do it? So on, so forth. Because the King of Wands is the one that will actually take the action, but he does it by way of being informed by his Queen, who also happens to represent the very first energies of the new zodiac, right? The new zodiacal cycle. So there's a dialogue going on here. And there will be decisions to make this month off the back of what Aries is feeding back to you, Pisces. Oh, let's put my deck the right way around. That will help. Tell me about the Two of Wands. Two of Wands. So we have the Four of Pentacles. Wow. The World and the Hanged Man. There you are. Three of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. You've got somewhat of an uphill climb, Pisces, and I'm glad that you've got the energy for it, because I think that that's what all of this is that we've been talking about up until this point, right? Because in some way or another, you are going to need to change the relatively fixed minds of most of the world around you, right? Now, I don't think you need to do that by direct means, like sitting them all down and going, what, right, so this is the skinny, right? Everything's becoming shitload more Pisces now. It's not really how you operate, right? I'm talking about in terms of energetic output by you. It feels to me like it is ramping up dramatically this month. I don't think it's something that you need to worry about exhausting yourself on, because you get a lot of drive from the North Node being in your sign, but you also have a lot of creative and very balanced energies coming forward that are feeling a lot like they're aligning you with your destiny. It's almost like this is what you are here to do. This is why you're here. And this time that you've been waiting, now you get to shine. But Four of Pentacles is about holding on to things too hard, right? I don't think that this is you. I think that this is, you know, in response to paradigm shifting stuff. Now, it's not in its upright, it's on its side. And in this case, I read this as to mean that there will be fewer than you think, fewer people that you need to kind of energetically tweak than you think that there might be. By the end of this month, so many things have changed. There will be a number of people who seem to be quite fixed, who are shifting, and they're starting to see, they're doing that by themselves, and they're starting to see things from a much more Piscean perspective than they might have done otherwise. But then you've got the rest of the fixed energy that doesn't really want to see that, like, and it seemingly seems to fall to you to find a way to change their mind. I mean, you could look at this and say the world quite literally is going to be upside down. It's going to be seeing things very, very differently at the end of the month, and I think that that's true. But I also think that the fact that the Four of Pentacles is here means that there is some level of stuckness that is going on with some people, and they may well need some assistance in submitting to the changes that are happening. You see that Three of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck is absolutely putting the focus on cooperation and collaboration, but understanding that we are all playing our part in the creation of what comes next. And so you may be imagining it, and it may be, you know, you've got Aries coming back to you and going, okay, well, you know, this is the situation here, and you're like, well, I add another layer to what I can imagine, and then send Aries out with new imaginings, bigger and brighter and higher, such a high octave kind of healing energy. But there's work to do on that front. I don't know how many of you meditate. I would imagine like most Pisces that I've ever met had the ability just to kind of go. And I don't know where you go, but I'm someone who kind of goes a little bit as well. But I go in a Leo way, right? And I don't know where you are. I don't know where I go, but absolutely not here. Somehow you've got this ability to go and be here at the same time. And this is something that's it's gonna be expanding over the course of March, right? So it could be in real time you are receiving intuitive information about what you need to be doing right here in front of you right now. And it's not something that you can kind of go away and think about for a week before you decide whether you're going to do it or not. Like, it's like everything is having to happen now, and as quickly as you are able to execute it. Now, I don't know what this means, Pisces. I'm assuming that you understand the message that's going on here. But if this has already, to some extent, been happening, you can expect it to increase exponentially, I think, because we seem to be moving into the next phase of things. And like I said, right, we've got eclipses this month. We've got, you know, big outer planetary outer planets changing sign. We've also got two retrogrades, and they're overlapping, and they're very, very close to each other as well. So there's big intensification of both of their energies going on. And that, I mean, that's just the edited highlights. There are shitloads of other things going on too. Let's have a look at this card here. Can you see that card? Oh, you saw me shuffle the deck. You saw me pick it. The card is sacrifice, and one of the reasons why there are two reasons why I'm shortling. The first is because, well, sacrifice is given to be a Piscean attribute. The ability to be, to sacrifice is very, very strong with Pisces. Much, much stronger than in any of the other signs. But also, I did a new moon in Pisces video last week, and one of the two cards that came out was this one. And I was like, well, that just seems very fucking on point for the energy of Pisces, right? So I would say, if you've not seen that video, maybe go hunt it out. It was only about 4 minutes long. It's oriented incorrectly because I, for my sins, decided I was going to try and make a short, and then I realised I couldn't short for shit. But it was already the wrong way around. So... but it is only about 4 minutes long. Because I think the nature of the sacrifice that we're talking about is not sacrificing things that are of great value per se. They may be perceived as great value by other people, but not you, Pisces. I don't see you needing to offer yourself up on some sort of sacrificial altar, but I do think that for other people, it's sacrificing the things that are damaging the unity, right? And this is where you help guide people as to what needs to be stuck on that altar and just sacrificed, gone, removed. A true sacrifice, I think, in my experience, because there have been a few times where I've had to do that, is something that I've really, really worried about ahead of time. And then when it came to it in the moment and I did it, even if I didn't really want to do it that much, but I did it anyway. Quite often I've discovered, not too far in the future beyond that, that it never really was a sacrifice. Just with the level of consciousness that I had at that point, I perceived it to be so. And then on the other side of the sacrifice, I was like, I don't know why I resisted it so long. It's like it was clearly not for me, and I feel so much better now I've done that. That's, something along those lines. So, I mean, this is really interesting, Pisces, and I have been chuntering on for ages. I'm really sorry about that. So I am going to go to the extended now. You're very welcome to join me if you would like to do so. You can do that on Circle. You can do that on Selfie, not Vimeo, Selfie. The links for both are in the description box, and I would be really delighted to see you in either place. I'm going to pull this apart a little bit. Let's maybe ruminate a little bit more on this sacrifice. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad sacrifice. The sacrifice angle. Yes. Yes, I'm going to go. Otherwise I shall sit here forever. So know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.